I'm Aden Matthews.
And I'm Zach Snyder.
And welcome back to another YouTube podcast, the one-stop shop for anything and everything related to YouTube.
KK Bomba, bro.
That's not what you were supposed to say.
Frick!
You can't
I
just
screwed it up.
go into a podcast, go KK Bomba, and then expect things to work out okay.
I thought I could.
I don't think you thought at all, Zach.
That's the issue. The show where I don't think.
No
thinking involved. Empty. It's 10:26 a.m. It's a Wednesday. This is our second recording in the last few days at early in the morning.
Yep, because Zach actually gets up on time and Aden has not gone to bed. So 9 or 10 a.m. is actually relatively good. To be fair, we could have done it earlier, but a little thing called Fortnite Season 5 happened.
Yo!
Yeah. So that delayed this recording about maybe 3 hours or so. But, yeah.
I am impressed and amazed at how into Fortnite I have gotten this year. And I'm okay with it. Should have been fun.
Bro, me too. Me too.
I enjoyed it.
Been on that bandwagon with you all the way through. Same with Parker. Same with Jay.
Yeah.
Just been on that Fortnite gang all the time. Season 5 looked dope as well.
Realize that I play it more like an RPG than I do just like a battle royale. And I think that's what a lot of people that shit on the game don't quite know about. But yeah, there's a lot of RPG mechanics. And that's kind of cool.
A lot of collecting, EXP grinding, stuff in between.
Yeah.
It's dope all around. But what are we talking about today, Zach? Because this was actually your idea. It's the reason we're recording one so soon.
That's crazy. I thought we were going to do a Fortnite episode. But no. Instead, there is a interesting little thing happening on Twitter. Big YouTuber, Mr. Beast. If you guys have ever heard of him, he gives a lot of money to a lot of people. And dude's got like millions of subscribers at this point. It's insane. But he posted on Twitter, he said, "I wish there was a way to invest in social media influencers." Long story short, he wants to invest in YouTubers, and he's willing to give some money to a small YouTuber for a percentage of their channel revenue. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Kind of some takes that we've seen on Twitter responding to it, and then our opinions on kind of investing in creators in a monetary standpoint, and then we'll probably touch on some MCN stuff a little bit because there's kind of a history.
Because believe it or not, we've never talked about MCNs.
Never.
Or networks, really. Yeah.
Not even once.
All the things we could have had an episode on. That's one of them.
Yeah.
That just didn't happen. But first, the only network that actually matters.
Yeah.
The people who put it in the work day and night. The lovely sponsor, Awesome Creator Academy.
Yo.
With the YouTube Starter Kit, if you're getting started on YouTube and you have a little bit of money to throw around, why not check out the YouTube Starter Kit? For $99, you get over $1,500 of value and dozens of downloads from templates for advanced YouTube thumbnails, channel artwork, end cards, and lower thirds, and all this other stuff as well. It's kind of like investing in yourself. Mm-hmm.
Yo,
tying it back in. You don't need no Mr. Beast to get the Awesome Creator Academy YouTube Starter Kit, bro. That's just $99.
This is true. But if
you just pay one price, have unlimited access to future downloads as they come out, and you can check out the link in the description below for the show notes, and in doing so, you'll be supporting another YouTube podcast.
Bro, but what if you don't want to invest in yourself? Instead, you want to invest in Aden and Zach.
Are you in the Shark Tank?
Are you
anybody
in
listening
the Shark Tank?
Shark Tank?
If you don't have the $100, but you still want to support this podcast, you can become a supporter on Anchor itself at anchor.fm/another-YouTube-podcast. You can support us financially at $1, $5, or $10 a month. In doing so, we'll read your name on the podcast. We'll make more episodes of the podcast, and we can line our pockets with your cash. It's just that epic.
We'll even give you a blowjob. I mean,
wait a second.
shout you out.
Wait a second.
Shout you
Only
out.
if you're hot.
Only hot investors. That's the type of people we're looking for. If you're ugly, sorry, it's just the rule we've imposed. So, no ugly bitches. All right, supporting the podcast. It's just how it is.
Man, cool.
Thank you to the boys for supporting the podcast. Thank you, by the way, to the boys who supported us on YouTube recently.
Yeah. So I'm logging into our YouTube account to see if we had any comments. And because we're recording this early, we don't have any new ones right now. But I realized our YouTube's term of service and Twitch DMCA video episode got a whole 57 views, which compared to literally everything on the channel, it is our most listened to episode by far. So we appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming in. And it's like there's a decent amount of people that stuck through that, so that's pretty cool.
Like 21 minutes is the average duration of watch time.
Yeah,
which is pretty good.
Better than nothing. I mean, it's a lot better. So that's cool. We appreciate you guys.
They made it through the intro and like the ad part of the topic even. Like they put in some listens, some hours. So thank you everybody who listens to that, and thank you for the 2 or 3 people that subbed. You probably didn't care as much about last week's episode, but maybe this one will be more interesting. Who knows?
Yeah.
Because I imagine the people who sub to us for Twitch and YouTube news probably doesn't want to hear about our 2020. But hey, there's some good shit in there too.
I agree.
Get what you take. But speaking of which, let's go ahead and hop right in to the topic at hand. And I just want to read the original tweet verbatim. Kind of give us a baseline here. Says oh no, I gotta go back. My bad. I wish there was a way to invest in social media influencers. I don't know anything about the stock market and I find it boring. Like when I see a channel that I think will blow up, I wish I could just like buy shares in it or something. LOL. Any small YouTuber want to give me 10% of your channel for like 10K or 100K? Depends on your size. Let's run an experiment and see how it works. LOL. So, of course, given that this is literally Mr. Beast and the amount of money Mans was throwing around and has thrown around in the past, the replies are insane. A lot of people talking about this, most of it positive, but there's some negative stuff in here as well. So we're just going to kind of like gauge the reaction, talk about what we think about this personally, as well as just investing in YouTubers in general, and what the MCN and network world looks like in 2020.
Yeah.
So that sounds good. Stick around, you fuck. we gonna dive right in.
I agree. So it's it's weird that we hadn't mentioned MCNs literally at all on this podcast in the past. But we hadn't really had a reason to. I think the closest we got was we may have mentioned that Machinima had like shut down at some point last year, but I don't think we touched on it much. Long story short, if you don't know what an MCN is, it's a multi-channel network. They were there's not many of them around now, or at least I don't hear about them that often, but in the earlier days of YouTube, up to like the prime 2012 to 2015 spot, when so many people could be partnered without having any kind of like regulations like we have now, these big corporations would come in and send an email or a comment to a YouTuber and be like, hey, we want to represent you as kind of this not only legal entity, but we might have some resources to help you with your channel. We might give you more analytics to use. We might give you some money, but the basis of what ended up happening with a lot of them was they would use kind of smaller creators to get a percentage of their monthly revenue from YouTube and line their pockets with it. And then the smaller YouTubers by and large would not get a whole lot out of the MCN.
And typically these would be in the form of long contracts that you would be obligated to be stuck in for 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And depending if you had blown up in that time, let's say, or it really popped off with the video, well, those terms don't really change, and you're still paying a good portion of your money to an MCN. And depending on your size, a lot of the features that they offer might not even necessarily be worth it to you. One of the only big things they advertised was like, we could help you with copyright stuff, or we could give you assets for your channel, or we could connect you to someone from YouTube. And sometimes they were valid, and sometimes they legit offered stuff. But in the case of Machinima and a lot of these bigger ones, where we're talking about thousands and thousands of channels, there was really no honest-to-goodness help being had at any of these networks, and most of it was strictly for monetary purposes. Which, granted, like, back then, there was literally no other way you could have made money. Getting 10% of your profits is better than 0. But clearly, as YouTube eased up on it, the need for these kind of networks with these big, long, and lengthy contracts just weren't seen as something you needed anymore, because we found out they were manipulative, and YouTube finally got their shit together and has an outlined plan for how to get partnered and how to make money.
Exactly. It's like when we were in the Wild West of YouTube, it kind of made sense for a gaming YouTuber to partner with Machinima. They get a little bit of exposure by uploading some of their videos onto their main Machinima channel. They get maybe, a little bit of that revenue, but again, not much. There were certain bigger creators like PewDiePie, who was under MCN that Disney owned. Maker Studios, yeah. And they would help facilitate kind of like big boy projects that PewDiePie could get involved with, like the YouTube Red show that he did back in the day, getting on the talk show hosts, like all those kind of things. But again, that's like if you're a bigger creator. And even then, like some bigger creators were having bigger issues with these MCNs. I remember Ray William Johnson back in his heyday. He was with Maker Studios, if I'm not mistaken, and he had to get out of his contract because they were forcing him to do certain things creatively that he didn't like, and it ended up causing him to lose a lot of his creative projects at the time, because he signed a contract and they ended up owning the rights to a lot of his creative endeavors.
Yeah. And while that system has kind of died out, we do still very much see it in the social media content creation world. The easiest example I can point to is these platform deals. We see a lot on Twitch and other live streaming services, where a platform will kind of pay to keep you there and make you sign a contract so that they could use your name and brand in their advertising and stuff like that. And esports is another big agency where like that happens a ton. And even if you end up exploding or getting bigger, you might still have to go through that same company because you originally sold some of your creative rights over to them. Not saying that all of these agencies can be shitty, depending on your size and what you give away. Being able to read a contract and pick apart things is obviously a key and important skill that not everybody has, but like that's why you get a lawyer to look through it for you.
Right.
But it is still around today, and there are still corporations and stuff that profit off of social media influencers, sometimes for the best, 90% of the time for the worst.
It's there's a lot of predatory practices involved with it, especially with people that do not have the business intelligence that's required to, facilitate through these different things. But if you know what you're doing, if you're talking to the right people, if you have like an actual agent that is helping you with certain deals and stuff, it can be beneficial to be with certain agencies once you're at the size where they're like, they're putting sponsorship deals in front of you. They're putting partnership deals in front of you. They're giving you, more exposure in different aspects. They're setting up live events. Like there's plenty of those out there that are very, very good if you're at a certain size. But what a lot of people are concerned with this Mr. Beast tweet, and we'll go ahead and get into that, is that some people think that Mr. Beast would be using smaller YouTubers to basically give him another form of passive income.
Right. Which, I mean, like, in a sense, it's kind of what an investment is. Mm-hmm. No one gives you $10,000 to $100,000 out of, like, kindness. I mean, you know, some people legitimately do. Yeah. And if you find one of those people, congratulations, you're the luckiest man on earth. But, like, for most people, an investment implies that you are giving money up front in hopes that eventually the profit that you gain back from that will double or even some cases triple.
Right.
Which is why people spend a lot of time into this. It's why trends are such a huge thing. Trying to gauge where a person is at, whether or not they're worth that money or if the idea is worth that amount of money. There's a lot of big business decisions that go into that. And for a channel of any particular size, it can be a big thing to give up even 5, 10, or 15%. Because you don't know where you'll be.
Yeah.
I mean, potentially, right? Like, you get that hot 10%, don't go nowhere, made more money than you ever imagined to, and just kind of vibe. There's also the chance that, like, that 10% could be worth $1 million or some shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I ended up getting the growth I needed, but was it worth it to trade out that much? And obviously, this isn't set in stone yet. This is not even a thing that has any legal document associated with it, but be assured, if man's dropping that kind of money, there's some paperwork involved so that he didn't feel like he wasted that much, and rightfully so.
I agree. One of the things that I kind of would like to do at some point in the future, I've kind of mentioned, like, you know, I have the whole Zack Snyder Productions brand, which is kind of encapsulates all the different projects that I do. But I would love one day to turn that into a production company, like 20, 30, 40 years from now, right? And one of the things that I want to do is invest in smaller creators. I think it would be awesome if I could find people like me, like Aden, like people in our friend group who are smaller creators who, like, all they need is a financial incentive and the ability to just go all in on their projects and, like, give them a year or two and they could, you know, soar. And by giving them a little bit of money to help them along in that early part, it makes that early part so much easier if they have the talent and the work ethic, right? So,
right. And I think I talked to you not terribly long ago when you had brought up that idea to me and we were talking goals and ambitions. And I had kind of asked the basic question of, like, okay, well, if you were that investor and had that money, what would be, like, sort of the things you'd look for, right? What would be some of the things you would try to evaluate? Because I don't know, it's hard to evaluate my own content on a day-to-day basis. Like, I don't know my net worth, and I don't really for a lot of other YouTubers. So I'm interested, at least for the podcast perspective, and you don't have to go terribly in depth if you don't want to. But, like, let's say you were in Mr. Beast's position, what would be some things you would look for to lead you to deciding on that financial amount to invest or not invest?
I think for me personally, I would be looking for someone who's done YouTube for a certain amount of time, anywhere from a couple to a few years. I feel like is a pretty solid standpoint. I'm looking for somebody who's, created more than just a few videos, obviously. Somebody who's created 100 plus videos, I think, is a good, starting point to show that they're really dedicated to what they're doing. And then I'm looking for somebody that has, like, not only the creative talent, right? Because there is some talent aspects there. You want the content to be good that you're investing in, but also some noticeable, hey, if they had this particular equipment, it would push them up to the next level. Hey, if they are able to do this many videos a year under whatever restrictions that their life has, then by giving them the financial freedom to just have making videos be their life, their livelihood for a while, then I I would feel, better spending my money on them, because I know that by giving them like a monthly stipend or a yearly stipend or something like that, that they would be using it properly, right?
Right.
So, somebody that's mature enough to, and I would even say that has the business smarts. I would want them asking me questions about, what exactly we're doing in terms of a contract and that kind of stuff, because like on one hand, it'd be cool to find some like 8-year-old kid who has a Fortnite channel that has a really good presence and be like, yo, this is, he could go places. On the other hand, I don't want to take advantage of somebody, so I want to make sure that they are getting as much out of that as possible.
Right. Make it worthwhile, not just from a money perspective,
Right.
but the resources and advice and the stuff that we talk about here on this podcast, the strategy behind a lot of
Exactly.
it, rather than like the down and dirty specifics and technicals that we see so often.
Roberto Blake commented on this tweet and said, after I launch a new channel idea that I'm working on, I am interested in a Shark Tank deal to see what it would look like, and I think 10% equity under the right conditions is more than fair, but I want specifics on the experiment side, and the money is not what I care about. So I thought that was interesting, because again, like giving somebody $10,000, $100,000, depending on their size, I think could go a long way in giving somebody some financial freedom. It would help me. Like, you give me $1,000, like that's my living expenses plus more for the next 2 to 3 years. And I can just focus solely on making videos during that time and hopefully make that money back a lot quicker. By just doing videos. But I would be curious in terms of, what all does he expect from somebody that he would be giving them money? Is he expecting a certain amount of uploads? Is he expecting a certain type of content? Mr. Beast content is very specific. It's got a feel to it. Does he want the people that he's giving money into to take that creative vision as well? Because I wouldn't want to do that, right?
Right.
So those specifics are what I personally want to hear about as well, and a lot of people are concerned about.
I'd also wonder too, from a psychological perspective, what that looks like, not only on the investment end and managing that, like how much do you get involved, how into the details do you go, do you try to steer them one way, or do you let them continue on the road they've been traveling? But I also wonder what that looks like from the person being invested in, right? The creative side. How do you go about creating videos with the knowledge and expectation that you are trying to not only grow, but make that money back to make them satisfied as well as yourself? I'd feel like that would bring a lot of creative pressure. And I know a lot of artistic people, myself included, and us as well. And we're not exactly the best when it comes to deadlines, when it comes to extrinsic pressures from life and other such places. I mean, sure, you'd be able to get financial security through this, but that brings a whole different set of like trying to manage the new challenges that come with being somebody that's expected to be a success.
True.
Right?
True.
Somebody that's expected to grow. Somebody that, if you're the first one, let's say, that has others riding on this, right? If you're the first person to be invested in and you're the guinea pig, the test hamster, and you now have this suddenly great life, well, then the pressure is on for you to keep that up, so he feels more obligated to invest in other people and to give other people that same opportunity.
And not just Mr. Beast, but other big creators or people with money that want to do this long term, right?
Because once it works right for one person, there's no telling what other people will get involved in. And again, we see this in esports and we see this with bigger platforms, but not terribly much just from creative YouTubers making stuff that are not trying to be on a competitive team or do anything other than make interesting content. So I just wonder from a psychological perspective what that does to a person, given all that money.
I've followed 2 channels in the past couple of years that have gotten similar monetary resources. One guy got the Adobe Creative Residency program back in 2019, I believe, and then the one girl got the Patreon. What do they call it? We can say it's a residency too. They both handled things differently. Adobe was much more involved. They were like, hey, we need to see progress on your project. We're going to fly you out to these different meetings so you can meet these different people. You have the opportunity to be involved in bigger projects that we give you. And then Patreon was very much more hands-off and was just like, here's $50,000. We're going to give it to you in 12 different stipends throughout the year. You can do whatever you need to do with it. And through both instances, I saw the creator handle it both very well, but in different ways. For instance, the guy with the Adobe Creative Residency, he had worked with Gary Vaynerchuk for a couple of years. So he was...
Right, I remember.
Right, he was kind of used to this, like, hustle, work a lot, create content a lot. And yet, I didn't see as much content come from him throughout that year, which I thought was interesting. And then the girl with the Patreon scholarship, she ended up getting her friends involved with her main channel, and they ended up starting to put out weekly content. So I thought that was kind of interesting as well.
Sort of working at it from the quantity angle of like getting more content out.
Right. All this to say that I think the type of people that Mr. Beast is going to be looking for and the type of people that would be invested in for something like this would be the people that would be able to handle it well. I think that that's something that you can kind of judge character-wise based on their previous content, based on just talking to somebody, whether or not they'd be able to, certain people have a passion for this that is unmatched, and they were going to try to put in that amount of work no matter what, right? So it is, I think that financial freedom is something that we talk about theoretically, but like if tomorrow you were given the money to do anything creatively for the next year, like that'd be amazing to me personally. It would mean a world of differences compared to what I'm doing now.
But it's not like, and I guess this is where I disagree a little bit. It's like, but those responsibilities don't go away. It just changes to something with a lot more, personally, pressure on my end to succeed based on, I'm apparently worth $10,000, but I haven't proven it yet.
Yeah.
Like, what that means, right? Like, we talk a lot on the podcast, for example, whether it was the Monster Cat deal or people who go through sub for sub or botting and stuff, people getting this sort of success sometimes overnight haven't really worked for it and earned it yet, get an opportunity like that where they haven't necessarily proven themselves in any meaningful way. And I feel like if you are going to a small YouTuber, you're not going to have a whole lot of case studies and examples to point at other than their content and what their scope is. And scope doesn't necessarily mean good content or bad content.
Right.
Scope can mean a variety of things. Is it more valuable to pay money to a movie reviewer than a travel vlog? Well, the travel vlog can get you more B-roll and have life advice, but maybe the movie reviewer is more topical. Which one of those genres plays out more long-term? The personality behind it. I still think there's a tremendous pressure, at least from my end. If I was put in that scenario, I'd feel a tremendous pressure and maybe even potentially guilt if I wasn't able to even live up to half of that.
Right. That's fair.
Even if it wasn't my fault. Even if I put in the work, even if I made these vast improvements and spent the money on equipment, there would be improvement for sure. But in the same way, like if I got 1,000 subscribers by tomorrow, I would not be properly prepared to deal with that success. And I don't know that a lot of YouTubers would be able to, and I don't know necessarily how well you could be able to judge that given the small sample size and how small a lot of these YouTubers he's looking for is.
It would definitely be a case by case basis, right? Certain people would be able to handle it better than others, and there's a lot of unknown factors for sure. And so I do agree with you. I mean, there is definitely a psychological angle to it. I don't know if personally that would affect me as much as it sounds like it would affect you.
Right.
But like, who knows?
What's to say?
Like,
what's
really,
to say that
knows?
didn't happen here?
Right?
Yeah, like we know each other,
yeah.
but we don't necessarily know what that looks like for some random Joe who reviews movies in his parents' house and hasn't really been put in a scenario like that before.
Yeah.
Some people rise to the occasion, for sure. There are definitely people who are built that way. But I don't know. I think about people with a more shy personality. I think about people who really just love their tight-knit community. People who are really good at one specific niche, but maybe aren't business-oriented. A lot of the time, like, being a YouTuber, when you really get down to the base qualifications, are not that terribly high. And I think what that means for a lot of people is you get a huge variation in the type of content creators you get on the platform.
This is true.
Some of them would benefit totally from this. Others, like, I don't know what that looks like.
I think we also have to look at, like, this is Mr. Beast, a guy who is so energetic, so in your face with his content. Very much like, he might not be extroverted in person, but in his content, he's putting out extroverted content, if that makes sense.
I agree.
I agree. He's probably going to be looking for people that exhibit the same kind of energy, whether that be through their personality or their content or their internet presence, whatever that may mean. I doubt he's going to find some movie reviewer that is like 200 subs, that's very quiet, very interpersonal, very into their own kind of, space, and be like, here's $10,000, here's $100,000. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. I'm just saying that I doubt that would be the type of person that he's looking for in this kind of thing.
Which I think brings me back to, like, when I asked you that question of what type of shit would you look for, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think there's so many different angles you could take it from, whether it's consistency, whether it's personality. I think genre, again, plays a lot.
Yeah.
I definitely have a disposition if somebody would have come up with me with a concept of a Let's Play channel compared to some type of video essay stuff. And that's not that I don't think both could succeed business-wise, but if push comes to shove and the qualifications are the same, probably picking the video essay guy, regardless of what I feel that way.
I wouldn't even second guess, like, looking at a Let's Play channel. Like, if I was Mr. Beast and I put out this tweet and I saw somebody be like, hey, here's my Let's Play channel, like, I just would not even look at it. I honestly wouldn't. I don't think that is not only is it not a avenue that I feel like I could help that person become, big with and give them, and not only do I think it's a waste of money, but there are like hundreds of other people doing the exact same thing, right?
Right.
So, genre definitely plays a big part in it. Personalities play a big part in it. And I think that if you are the type of person that's looking to invest in channels, I feel like the two main ways to do it is either find somebody that you've already been watching and you're like, I really like this person, I see a lot of potential, and I think that they could grow if they had some financial freedom. And the other way would be like putting out a tweet and being like, hey, I'm looking for people, and then just kind of skimming through and seeing somebody that you find has potential of what you're looking for.
Kind of facilitate a lot of the responses and see what comes up. on one end or another.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of interesting shit. I don't know if I could do it if I had the money.
Yeah.
Would I be able to make those really like good judge a character calls on somebody like that? Just because I'm so early in the process, right?
Right.
Like, I don't know what my success looks like, so I couldn't even imagine trying to do that for other people. Some people are more built for that, though, 100%. Some people are definitely like more business oriented. Some people probably wouldn't have the biases I would to begin with. Others might be more experimental and risky in the type of creators and genre they sign on for, and just throw money out and see what the fuck happens.
Right.
Throw some darts at a wall and see. So I don't know. I guess a question I want to ask you specifically. We talked about it from the investment angle and how Mr. Beast is planning about going about this, but how do you think if you're a content creator and you even see a tweet like this, how do you find your own net worth to even like estimate if you're in the ballpark of tweets like this or investment opportunities?
That's a good ass question.
I don't know either. I mean, we're just gonna spitball here. Like I don't know what that looks like.
I can only go at this from my own perspective, right? And like this isn't the first thing that I threw my hat into in terms of getting a lump sum of money over a period of time to make content. Like I said, like I've applied to the Adobe Creative Residency for 2 years straight. I applied for the Patreon sponsorship thing last year. Like I've put myself out there to edit for a lot of bigger creators that didn't go anywhere. So there's like I feel like personally that I'm in the place that if given the resources and the opportunity, that I could move from this step to the next within a year. But I only feel that way because I've been doing YouTube for almost 10 years, right? It has been such a journey in finding my voice, finding the content that I want to make, finding the genre and the types of content, the types of topics that I can come up with. Spending so much time doing this already for free that it's like it's hard for me to say somebody that's been doing YouTube for a year would feel 100% confident in asking for money for what they're doing, right?
Right. But I think that's more self-worth, right? That's building the skills, that's building the confidence. I'm talking point blank how much your channel worth today.
Right.
The monetary amount. Like what would you say for your everyday nerd? Like what would be the price tag you would think the channel is worth? And if you can't come up with the 100%, like what does at least 10% look like, right?
What's like, I mean, this brings me into a question that I'm gonna ask after this, but like,
yeah, go ahead. I'm down to go back and forth. I'm
so Ross Odonovan, Rubber Ninja of Game Grumps fame and stuff, he had commented on here saying, honestly interesting. MCNs once did something like this for channels who brought in talent. Go to his next tweet. He says, actual question though, would you be looking to take a cut off of just the YouTube revenue? Or would that include external stream revenue, brand deal revenue, and other revenue sources? So what my question is, like, as far as Your Everyday Nerd goes, if I had the financial freedom to just do Your Everyday Nerd and like Twitch streams and then, running like Twitter, Instagram, and this podcast. Let's say I just did that.
Okay.
I feel like in a year, if that was my entire responsibility, I could get to a place where Your Everyday Nerd was bringing in like $40,000 to $50,000 a year.
40 to 50,000.
Yeah, that is through.
If you had a year.
In a year, I think so.
In a year. Okay.
That is through
Interesting.
YouTube ad revenue. That is through finding sponsorships. That is through streaming, getting that revenue. That's through Patreon. The big one is sponsorships. I think that once your everyday nerd gets to like 10,000 to 50,000 subscribers, then I can reach out to certain companies and I can do the right brand deals that would give me a monthly reoccurring payment from them. And that would be the majority of the income sources.
You can go the affiliate route too.
Yeah, affiliate as well. Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of different places you could take it for sure. But $40,000 to $50,000 in a
year. Yeah, and then going into like year 2, like once that channel reaches like 100,000 subs, I think it would not be crazy to say that given 2 to 3 years at that point, it could be getting 6 figures a year.
Ooh, that's interesting. Well, I know I keep asking questions. Eventually, I'm going to have to answer the same ones. But final follow-up. Is that with the assumption that it continues to grow? Or if you stayed stagnant forever and ever after that first year, 6 figures would still be relevant because you are now at that current size?
I think...
Like, is it with the promise guarantee that you're not really paying for the $100,000 YouTuber Zach Everyday Snyder?
Right.
You're paying for the promise that it'll get to this number, and then that'll be worth way less than you would have had to have paid once I got bigger.
Right.
You know?
I mean, obviously, there'd be questions in terms of, let's say he decided to give $100,000, like, and then I had to like show up. I had to give him 10% for, the next couple of years or whatever. I would be wondering. I'd be wanting to know, how long does he want 10% from me? How is he going to be frequently paying into it, or is it just going to be a one like payment type thing? Like I would want to know those questions for sure before I got into anything like this, right? But like the thing that I see with medium-sized YouTube channels, thinking of Your Everyday Nerd as going into that medium-sized YouTube channel range, some of the highest paid YouTubers in those spaces are doing the right business practices to still get like 5 to 6 figures a year. Things like I'm thinking a lot of like Front Page Tech, the news show, which he doesn't even post that often, which is insane. But like he makes 6 figures a year. He's got 300K subscribers now, and that's grown from like 100K in the last 2 years. But he was making like 5 to 6 figures at like 50K subs because he was in the tech space. He was getting sponsors to come in. His viewers were watching it. He was getting some affiliate deals from it. And by selling these kind of packages of sponsorship deals, being like, hey, he had an eHarmony sponsor, which was pretty funny. But apparently it did him really well. But he would be like, hey, eHarmony, I want you to pay me like $20,000 and you can get an ad spot in like every video for the next 5 months. They'd be like, yeah, I can do that.
Wow.
Because they spend a lot more money on TV ads and web ads and all these kind of things that it's like influencer marketing works so much better than any of that it's still super underpriced. But if you know what you're doing, if you know how to talk to these companies right, and get those deals going, like you could be making a lot more money as a smaller YouTuber than a lot of bigger YouTubers are doing now.
Depending on your strategy, for sure.
Exactly. And I would get an agent. Like either Mr. Beast needs to be finding me people to sponsor my show, or I would be paying somebody else a percentage of those sponsorship deals to do that for me. That way I don't have to handle all the nitty-gritty business parts as much.
You just work on making stuff.
Exactly. Hopefully all that makes sense.
Interesting shit. Yeah, well, I'm sure people at home are digesting this as much as I am personally.
Yeah.
Because I don't even, in my perspective, don't even really know how to answer a question like that.
Mm.
Because I totally view Blue Couch Productions and all my creative stuff from the angle of what it's worth to me personally.
For sure.
And I know what I would want for it because I make it and I like it, but I couldn't even begin to try to put a price tag on what that looks like for me now, what that would look like in a year, how much that would be worth in 10 years, and whether or not I'd be able to grow with that much resources to be.
That's fair.
I've never really thought about it. So I guess it was just interesting from your perspective because you clearly have in one form or another, especially given the fact that you are freelancing now. That kind of gets me ideas stirring of being like, oh, well, Zach's worth this amount, then I can kind of guesstimate off of that what that would look like for me at my size. And then being like, okay, well, from that, where would I be at in 1 year, particularly if I had no limitations? And I can kind of start to fill in some blanks with that information.
Definitely. It's, I mean, I obviously don't know everything that I'm talking about. A lot of this is still just kind of like, wishing that hopefully one day this stuff will happen. But I think there is a large part of me that's, I've consumed so much business content at this point, so much advice content, and I've worked with like bigger creators, actual corporations, actual entrepreneurs, to the point where it's like I get it. Like I get the steps that to take to make the money, the bridge that has to be built is creating enough content, the right amount of the right type of content and stuff to get from hobbyists to actually getting paid. Because once you get that bridge built and you have enough exposure on the different platforms, then like getting the money part isn't as hard as it sounds like it would be.
That's phase 2.
Right. Exactly. Which is like why I talked about last episode, like when I think about 2021 and going forward with Your Everyday Nerd, like at my pace now, without any outside resources, I'm not expecting phase 2 stuff to happen for another 5 years. Just because I don't know how much content specifically I need to make to get enough eyes on the channel to get it to that 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 subscriber mark that has enough viewers, enough eyeballs to actually monetize it in a proper way. I don't know how long that's going to take, but I think that if I had the financial freedom, that I could just wake up every day and instead of being like, let me go check what these clients said, let me go edit these different videos for people. Like I would feel so much better just stopping playing games for fun, stop watching as many movies, stop reading books or whatever for fun, and just being like, all right, I'm up, time to work on Yin. Because I know it's like not only am I writing on it, not only is that so important at that point, it's an actual priority, but like it'd be exciting, right? Like,
right.
Like I know what to do now. I know the exact thing that I need to do.
That kind of money, you were talking like team, we're talking like resources you need, the equipment, any dumbass Adobe certification or masterclass to pick up any information that you would want.
I can spend 20% of my time learning new things. I can spend the other 80% just working on stuff. Like we're hiring editors, we're hiring people to help me with SEO. I'm hiring an agent for freaking sponsorship deals. I'm getting a vehicle. I'm going around town after COVID, of course, and filming wacky shit wherever the hell I want. Like there's the world just opens up when you have money. And like I've had no money for so long in my life that it's like once I get there, shit could be wild. But, I mean, like you said earlier, there is that aspect that even I would still be a little worried about. Like, is this is having that much pressure on you going to cause you to fall into a deeper depression? Or are you going to feel disappointed no matter how much work you do, right? Like, those are still things I worry about in the back of my mind. But it's something that I've wanted for so long that I'm like, bro, please, Mr. Beast, give me money.
Give me money, Mr. Beast. If you're listening to the podcast.
That's the thing. That's what I'm going to name the episode. I'm just kidding.
Mr. Beast, give me money. I think that could really work out. I'm sure he didn't get requests like that every day.
Right.
So interesting.
Sure.
Well, those were all the major questions I guess I had for you. If you had any to throw back at me, regardless if you wanted to know how I thought about this or that, feel free. Because I feel like I've definitely bombarded you with shit.
Yeah, no.
That I already kind of knew about, to be fair, and just wanted the podcast listeners to hear. Some of it I hadn't heard before. So I'm getting a little bit of both here.
How do you personally feel like you would handle it if you had the opportunity for something like this?
Oh, man. Good Lord. At that point, right? 10K, 100K. I mean, I'm probably not the type of person that would be so self-confident in myself to make that happen. Mm-hmm. But shit, at 10K, I know people like you and Jay and others could most certainly get me at least 50% of the way there. Right?
That's fair. Yeah.
So I'd have no issue trying to move down there to make that happen. Right. To be like, hey, this opportunity only comes around once. Fuck if I'm only going to use it for me. A good portion of it most certainly will be, but that makes the opportunity to grow all 2 or 3 or 4 of us potentially up at the same time with the exact same resources that we could share and pool and shit, way more likely. So that if I don't reach that plateau, well, hey, I brought everybody up along the way. And then I'd be doing shit hey, I want to do a video about fucking nature in video games and some of the backgrounds and shit that put me in a serene state. Now, it'd be one thing if I filmed said video in my house by a TV or whatever. It would be another thing if I went into the Alaskan wilderness and filmed it too.
Right.
Really dumb, crazy shit. I would even, and this is an idea that literally just came to my head, I'd buy 2 PS5s, some little robot arms that you could remote control, put it in a little boxing ring, get me to control one of them, and then you or Jay to control another one, and have a PS5 boxing fight where one of these $500 consoles would break and never would be usable again. The other one would be fucked up beyond repair, and I'd treat it like an actual boxing match.
Yeah.
Really, really dumbass, stupid shit like that, worst case scenario, nobody fucking watches it, but it was super fun as hell to make. And I'm like, I made 2 PS5s beat the shit out of each other. That sounds amazing. That sounds wonderful. And then I'd probably put a lot of money just to invest in myself, right? Mm-hmm. It'd be like, all right, well, if I don't feel like I'm going this way, well, then I'm getting the best damn teacher to fucking at least tell me how to learn some of this shit and to shorten that gap between the person I want to be and the one I am currently on a creative front. Shit, probably shit like that.
Yeah.
Probably shit like
that.
I
get you. Made a joke the other night about doing a video where I go to every Greenville city in the United States. It's 15 of them or some shit. Or I went to every Taco Bell in my state. Just dumb shit that you couldn't do unless you had the money to put into. It would be really cool for videos. But yeah, there's even the aspect of I don't currently have a vehicle right now, but I could easily just go film some other shit around my town if I had that vehicle and had the mobility to just go wherever I wanted, right?
Right.
There's a lot of freedom with that kind of stuff. And some people will be like, Zach, $100,000 isn't a lot of money. Bro, it's a lot of money. I've lived off of $10,000 or less for the last 2 years. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can live off of barely any of that. Most of it would just go into resources. Some of it I would invest myself just to like make a little bit of extra, passive income off of it. It's just, there's just so much opportunity in something like that like, I get how some people see it as kind of like a predatory move. One creator that I follow, Thomas Frank, was talking about that he didn't like this because people will fall over themselves to give up equity because they like you. And he's talking about how like giving up equity in anything of yours isn't a good idea, because if you become profitable, then you're just going to be making them money. But like, dude, if I'm making so much money from my content that I have to give Mr. Beast like a shit ton of it as well, like, it's like paying taxes. People complain about taxing the rich a lot, and I'm like, dude, you got the money. It's not that big of a deal.
Right. As someone whose happy estate, right, the peak of where I'd want to be at when my life is all said and done, does not require an insane amount of money to begin with, then fuck if it makes another guy richer for me to be able to reach that goal tenfold and provide for everybody I needed. Sure,
yeah,
have the equity. Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever. 10%, 5%, whatever. Like, maybe if I was a multimillionaire, right, it was like, you know what, fuck, I really don't want to be giving money to fucking Mr. Beast. Like, I'd rather buy Ninja, right? Like, I'd rather have that money for that. But it's like, I don't see myself becoming a millionaire. And even if I did, I wouldn't have that lifestyle to be, I say all this, and then it might happen, and then I'd be like, well, actually, I do want a Lamborghini. And
check out my Gucci boots, bro.
The fucking dumbass jacuzzi and like a Gundam and shit. Like, like maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd say all that and then be like, well, actually, fuck it. I kind of do want to just be stupid rich. But for the most part, like, I wouldn't probably have that millionaire lifestyle. I'd probably just live a little bit better than I am currently, to a point where I was happy enough just to be able to create stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because that's clearly what drives me or you more.
For sure.
Is less this financial stuff, but the fact that financial stuff could lead us to not having to worry about so much other shit.
I think it's easy for certain people, and like, I don't want to negate any hard work that they did to get to where they are. There are a lot of really big creators that worked extremely hard to get to where they are. I don't believe that a whole lot of it is luck. There might be a minimal amount of luck, but they still worked really hard to get there. So I don't want to negate any of that hard work. But when you have technically made it, when you are living a life where your bills are taken care of and you're a creator, you're creating the things that you want to create, it's hard for me to say that, like, I don't get a little irritated at those people that are like, no, you shouldn't take this deal because it would mean you're giving up some of your money. It's like, bro, if you don't have this opportunity any other way, if this opportunity is
money ain't the goal.
Like, exactly. And for me, like, money is definitely a thing that would help my life and the people around me tremendously, and it definitely is a goal in my life. But I think of all the other things that I could so much easily do if I had financial freedom. Things like being healthier, paying for like healthy meals every day without worrying about it breaking the bank, or having a gym membership, or, like I said earlier, having a vehicle that allows me to go to a gym and work out, like, or even just like, driving to a nice part of the city that I can go walk around in without worrying about getting mugged. Like, there's a lot of aspects of that people that are much more comfortable don't think about. And I just think of all of the pros that would come with that. And less of the, like, less of the, hey, I can go buy a PS5 now. More of the, I can go help my parents with their bills. And then maybe they could start living their life in a way that's not awful, right? So, I think about money a decent amount. It's something that I kind of feel like I've been forced to think of in the last 8 or 9 years. And I obviously want to make it through creating where I wouldn't be doing it at all. Not necessarily, but I mean, I wouldn't be forcing myself to live off so little money over the last few years because I want to make it as a career as a creator, right? I just think of, like obviously there would be some stipulations with something like this, and obviously I would want to know, how much of that equity are you keeping for how long? Is it a lifetime thing? Is it a few years? Again, are you giving reoccurring payments? Are you giving me resources that would help me out? Or do I need to go look for those other resources myself? I'd want to know how his experiment would run out. But just out of the baseline, like I can give you 10% of nothing right now for 100K. Like it might turn into a million at one point that you get back, but that means I've got 10% of, 10% of 10 million is 1 million. That means I got another $9 million there. So wouldn't really complain about that personally.
No, not at all. And maybe if I had like more ambitious goals outside of just being comfortable and helping the people around me, I'd be like, well, no, fuck it. I need that other 10 million. I want to build a like World Hunger Foundation or some shit. Yeah. Or I want to like run for president or some shit. And it's like, yeah, if your goals are that big, then every little bit of money and business smarts and decisions count. But it's like, again, like I said earlier, my bar to happiness does not require a ton of money to get there.
For sure. For sure.
And that's me. That's me, though, right? Like, that's not everybody. Some people want, like, everything. Some people have larger goals in life. Some people just want to be rich, I guess. Yeah. Like, that's somebody. Not me, but that's somebody. But I think when you go through having just a life that wasn't always predicated on having money, when you finally do get it, it's not going to be the type of thing where it's like, oh man, now I feel an obligation to grow this to 100 million. I want to be a fucking billionaire by the time.
Right.
Like, I don't care, right? Like I don't care that much. And again, we'll see how that actually works if I do end up. Will I actually walk that walk, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But that's so far in the future to judge now. I can only give you the perspective of me right now on December 2nd, 2020, who has never even had a modicum of money given to them for anything creative. So like $1,000 would probably still mean a lot.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah.
But I don't have that perspective that somebody in his 40s who's a self-made millionaire and who has all these different ambitions would feel, right? Like maybe they'd feel totally different. I know at the end of the day, though, like it is a business decision. It's important to be smart. It's important to get a lawyer to look over contracts like this. It's important not to give up too much if you enjoy creating that much to potentially ruin your whole likelihood or career of ever doing it again. 100% what we're saying is be smart if you are put into a situation like that to begin with, whether it's Mr. Beast or some big company calling you up. Be smart with it 100%. But it's also like, I don't know. There's a lot that goes into it.
There's my
especially depending on your background.
Agreed. My big couple of takeaways from a discussion like this that has nothing to do with Mr. Beast and has nothing to do with getting money from anybody is that number one, like define your definition of success. Everybody's version of success is entirely different for various different reasons, and you need to know exactly what that looks for you. And any version of that is a positive as long as you are happy. If it means you need money, if it means you want money, if it means you want to be rich, as long as being happy is a part of that definition of success, then that's fine. Because if at any point your happiness dwindles and you're making more money, then that means you got to rebalance the book somewhere. The other big takeaway for me is to educate yourself about the business practices of becoming a creator in 2020, 2021, and beyond. If that is something that you want to pursue in the long run, because a lot of creators great content, and they say, I want to be successful with this, I want to go somewhere with this, but they don't know anything about the business side of it, and
they don't know where they want to go.
Exactly. And that's super important. Not only will it like help you when you end up in situations where that business knowledge is important, but it might actually help you get closer to some bigger goals and help you kind of figure some weaknesses that you might have now.
Yeah. And I think even if you have YouTube as a hobby and aren't even planning on making a modicum of income or success or anything, if you do get put into that situation where somebody gives you an offer, it is more than a good idea to know whether or not offers like that are worth it if it comes across, right? Even if you never plan to make an ounce of money or run it into a business, if you get successful to the point where offers like that start coming through the door, knowing why they are there, knowing how they are done, knowing what it looks like if you accept or decline is powerful insight to have.
Agreed.
To give you the confidence to go either one way or another. And be like, no, I don't want it, or yes, I do want it because of blank, because of this, that doing this deal will lead me to this amount of money to get to this goal, so on and et cetera. And, you know, you don't have to have things thought out 20 or 30 years ahead. God knows I don't.
For sure.
Like, that's way too far. I'm taking this shit a day at a time a lot of the time. But getting knowledge and learning about that stuff is not going to be a hindrance, whether you're small or big. Getting the knowledge to know these type of details, whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, someone looking for more, looking for less. Being knowledgeable about it's a good idea all around. It doesn't cost you anything.
I agree. And like Aden said, get a lawyer. Like, if you really need to, get a lawyer, because that'll help you figure out whether or not it's something that's worth your time, your energy, and your money, you know?
I was watching a Devin Nash stream, and he kind of runs like an agency similar to this.
He's the YouTube lawyer,
and
right? Or is he
No, you're thinking of someone else.
Okay.
But he was offering this creator a contract of some kind, and, you know, they ended up signing it or whatever, and he's like, hey, did you ask a lawyer to go over this? And they're like, no. And he was obviously like, well, why? Why'd you do that? That's a horrible idea. And literally the dude's response was, well, I don't want to make anybody feel bad. I don't want to make you feel bad or act like I'm not interested in the deal. And he's like, people like me are literally out to screw you over, right? Mm-hmm. In a lot of cases, in a lot of agencies' cases, they are trying to make a profit. If you are not putting in the due diligence to find out whether or not you are being screwed, that's a bad call every time. Like, fuck my feelings. Go and get a lawyer for yourself, even if it makes me less money, because that's the right call to make.
Yeah, definitely.
Even if it costs you money, even if a bit of profits go into it, the amount of money you will spend now will be so much smaller compared to the $20, $30, $40, $50,000 you might have to spend to get out of it if you don't like it. Like, pay that investment up front, especially if you don't know any better, and especially if you're getting into a contract. Like, fuck who cares on the other end. Fuck how much money it's going to cost. It is 9 times out of 10 always worth it.
Yeah,
get you a lawyer.
If I was a Mr. Beast type and I was trying to, you know, invest in some social media influencers, like, I would want them to be 100% in and confident in the deal that we're making. I don't want them to feel 80% in. I don't want them to feel 60% in. I don't want to screw them over. I want them to be happy about the opportunity that they're getting, but I want them to also, you know, I want them to be happy about it, right? Like, I would feel like an awful human being, and I feel like the way Mr. Beast, his persona and his act of giving away large amounts of money to different people, I feel like overall he seems like a good guy. Don't know him personally, but I feel like he would want the same too. Like, make sure that you're getting as much out of that deal as they would be getting out of it. Because at the end of the day, all they would be doing was giving you money, which they already had, and maybe helping you with some resources. You would still be doing a lot of the hard work to make that stuff happen.
Yeah. 100%. And that's the other thing I'll put out there, because we had mentioned it a couple episodes ago, and we're kind of going the other way with this. But like I said 2 episodes back, you make your own success, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even in this case, where someone pays you $10,000, $100,000, or you're signed on to a network, or you're given the opportunity to make money, or you have an agent or someone out there getting you these brand deals and getting the opportunities, that's one thing. But all of that is predicated on how much work you put up front and how much work you put in to maintain that atmosphere, to maintain these deals, maintain that sponsorship, sign into that contract, or get out of it, right? Like, these are opportunities, great opportunities, and things that could definitely propel you forward. I mean, none of us make it 100% by ourselves. There's always this aspect of teamwork and getting other people involved. But like, at the end of the day, your success is your success. $10,000 or $20,000 be damned. If you are not willing to put in the work to get there, that amount of money ain't going to give you shit.
Yeah, 100%. I think I mean, there's a certain amount of things that money can get, but it can't buy hard work. Like, you still got to do the work, you know? And even thinking back to like my own position, how I said earlier, like I would hire editors and I would hire people to help me with SEO and all that kind of stuff. Like, dude, it's insane how much of the editing I would still be doing on my own, right? It's insane how much of the, like, I would still be doing 100% of the scripting. I'd still be doing 100% of the recording myself, unless I had like a studio that I could hire somebody to help me record, because that would be dope. But like, I would still be doing like 90% of the editing, and
you're still the manager, right? You're still the bottom line. You were still, even with the talented team of 30 or 40 people that you can delegate shit to, you are still the bottom line of whether this is a good product, a bad product, whether it goes out, or whether you decide to scrap it all. You are that sole arbiter, or you and your friend are, if you're in a duo channel or the group or whatever. Like, you're only going to get however much you put into it. And in the same way that we talked about, well, like, what would happen if you got 1 million subscribers overnight? Would you have the work ethic to continue to put it forward? The same thing can 100% be applied here. That can be luck. That can be an incredible thing that stops on your door. That might not for a lot of other people, but the people who are legitimately passionate and work hard are going to get there regardless, no matter if they have an offer or a money amount.
Agreed.
You know, it just might take more time.
Yep.
It just might take more time.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, if Mr. B says no to me and Zach and the tens of thousands of other people who also, you know, asked him, that's fine. Because at the end of the day, like, we're still all going down the same road. 99% of us are going to be without that money. You just still have to work to get there, believe it or not. You know, like, whether you have it or don't.
Yeah. That'll be like kind of like the last thing that I'll leave off here is that, you know, it's I've been said no to on multiple opportunities like this. I'm sure there will be more that I will apply for or reply to, or even possibly get offered and still get denied. And it's like, that's fine. If it takes me another 10 years to get where I want to be, or even get close to where I want to be, I'm okay with that. And you got to be okay with that if that's something, if becoming a creator as a career is something you want to do. Because it is a career. It's not a job. It's something that you have to facilitate and work up to, so that you can, like we said earlier, get that definition of success for yourself.
Yep. Gotta have the goal in mind, you know, at least a version of it, or the steps to get you to where you can reach that point, you know, and being okay with the very real possibility, because it happens to a lot of people, that you might not get there for a very long time. You know, you get there tomorrow. But you could also get there 5 years, 10 years.
Agreed.
You know, you might be successful at the thing you're not even working on currently.
Yeah.
It happens. We hear it all the time, right? Like, the only thing that gives you more shots, the only thing that can give you more opportunities to hit that home run is by coming up to the plate each time and missing 1,000 different times.
Yup.
Till the one time it fucking hit.
Dude, I'd be losing so much in Fortnite, but eventually I win, and I'm like, couldn't got here without those losses. Unless I just do nothing the entire match, and maybe this wasn't a good analogy.
Get it for free anyway.
You know, maybe bringing it back to Fortnite wasn't a good idea, but it's fine.
Fortnite's very luck based.
Yeah,
there's a lot of shit that's just out of your control.
So much of it is.
It's like you never know if you're just gonna be handed the epic shotgun.
Yeah.
Or if you just get like, LOL, here's a sniper rifle with 2 bullets. Like, have fun.
But it's those like minute to minute moments that count a lot of times. Like you usually lose because you're not good at enough. And I think that
you get ran over by a whip.
Well, yeah. There's that luck, I guess, yeah. Again, maybe it's not a good analogy.
I'm convinced you can always find some way to tie back a life event to Fortnite. You're just not trying hard enough to get there.
We're changing the podcast to another Fortnite podcast. Get hyped. It's happening.
Fortnite game.
2021. Let's go.
What do you guys think about
this
Mr. Beast tweet? If someone offered you $10,000 to go make content full time, what the fuck would you do with it? And if you're looking at it from the investor side, what would you look for in another creator if you had that type of money? I'd be interested in hearing responses from both perspectives, whether you were the person getting invested in or you were the investor. Let us know your thoughts in the YouTube comments below or at our email, anotherytpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
We'll read the email. We'll read the responses. We'll read whatever you have to say, unless you shit on Fortnite again and we're not fucking reading your comments.
That's right, Calfro. That's right, I'm calling your ass out.
Damn,
talking about League of Legends is like Fortnite. I'm like, maybe you got a point, but I don't care. I don't play League.
Ugh.
I'm angry.
Zach angry. Zach angry, bro. Look what you made him do.
Nah, but seriously, we are definitely interested in hearing what you guys have to say about this. I feel like it's gonna create either a lot of comments or none. So I'm hyped. Either way.
Ooh, flip a coin,
It'll be epic.
We're probably, if I had to guess, if people actually listen to the episode and get this way through, we're either gonna get the comment that's like, well, you shouldn't really consider YouTube as a business anyway because there's so much luck that goes into it regardless, and that you should really just treat it like a hobby and hope for the best. Or we're gonna get the real business-minded, crazy, like, I've thought 10 years in advance and know every video I need to make to get to that point. And actually, here's why this deal is secretly genius or secretly stupid, depending. And then like leave this long thread about like why they think one way or the other, and be like, wow, man's really typed all this out.
Yeah, what is this, Reddit?
It's not your Reddit moderator, like, you know. But that's what I think. It's just going to be one of those two camps. People who are either beyond super serious or people who think that YouTube is essentially gambling and you're just fucking rolling dice to try to reach 21. I don't know how blackjack works. Just slots. People who think YouTube is slots. Here's my analogy.
Fair enough.
You get me,
I
right?
get you.
That makes sense.
Somewhat.
That's what I think.
I agree. It's gonna be interesting. I think we're good. I think we're gonna
heck yeah
end it here. So I've been Zach,
and I've been Aden,
and thank you for listening to this episode of Another YouTube Podcast.
Pagua Man.